Whether you're a suburban athlete or an Olympic champion, you've got to work hard to get results. We've put over 15 years experience into developing Active Man, combining vitamins, minerals and proteins. Active Man helps provide you with the nutrients you need to optimize performance and assist recovery. Discover the Active Man range, now available. Active Man, power up.
Welcome to this week's Power Progress podcast, and I have an amazing guest speaker. She was on my series number 2, Alex Blackledge. How you doing? You good?
Yeah, great. Thank you. It's good to be back.
Obviously, we had a short conversation before this, and what we thought we would cover is what does confidence mean to you? So let's tap into that a little bit more.
Okay, so confidence is a thing that comes up quite a lot, and I think it's a passing statement that people can say very often when searching for goals, for example, external goals or internal. I just want to feel confident, or I wish I was as confident as you. I've heard that a lot. Now, for me, confidence, everyone has it. Every single person has it. It is your true self, your soul trying to shine through. Now, what gets in the way of that is your ego. And a lot of people hold themselves back from labeling themselves confident because they think that confidence is arrogance, when in essence, it's actually not. Arrogance is more resonated with probably shyness and the fear element of things, because that's when your ego gets knowing, no. So actually, everyone has that confidence within them. And I say that's your soul trying to shine through. And then your ego, it's obviously that gets in the way. So really, to do the work, to get out of your own way, really take some time to kind of sit with yourself and, try and do that. Let it get out your own way and see where you can shine through in those opportunities. And, it's like I said, people will passively say these things. I want to feel confident. Well, you can, it's always within you. You can do that. So I think it's an interesting topic to explore for sure, because it's something that people seek and source, and they feel like it's a long way away. Like when I've had clients come to me and that was their initial goal, within 4 weeks, they're seeing that confidence shine and they can't quite believe it. And I'm like, well, I do, because it was always within you. You just have to start believing in yourself. So I think it's a good topic to talk about for sure.
I think with confidence as well, most people have confidence in something. So when they say they're not confident, what they mean is that particular thing, what they're saying they're not confident with, they're not quite built that know-how yet. So obviously when they look at, say, yourself, who's a fitness model, and they see you're the princess at Miami Pro, which is what I'll call you from last time, that's where they'll perceive you being confident, because you're very confident at that particular thing. But there'll be some things where I can say that there's some things I'm not confident at. And in the past, I can openly say that I've tried to come across confident with something, and that has come across arrogant to someone. And it's probably because they can see there's something missing, but they can't work it out. So they find it a bit uncomfortable. So they go, oh, he's just being arrogant. But in fact, that person who comes across arrogant may actually just be, to a certain degree, not that confident. They're just, it's almost like a shadow self, which I see happening a lot.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's the most important thing. Like, I can sit here and say, I may come across confident, especially through my Instagram. A lot of people say, oh my God, you're so confident. I say, do you know what? I confident in myself. And this is where it comes back to, I am confident in who I am. So regardless of other things, like the external things, I may not be confident at speaking on stage. I've not done it, so I can't really be confident. So but what I believe is I'm confident in who I am, what message I want to receive to people, and the type of person I am. And I know that through and through. And I think that is where coming back to confidence is literally your true self trying to shine through. Now, that can be blocked by a lot of things. If you have, a lot of things going on in your life, if you constantly give to other people and you're not giving any time back to yourself, you can become very, very confused, or it can become wish-washy with who you are, what your purpose is, what you're here to do, and what you want to portray to people. So really, you know, I'm not confident at several things. Like, I can hold my hands up, you know, but the difference is our confidence in who I am. And I think that's the most important thing. Is a lot of people will walk around with a mask on, trying to validate other people, post pictures for validation. They live their lives for other people because they actually, one, sadly, don't really know who they are. But two, you know, they're living for other people as opposed to living to themselves. So I think that's really, really where true confidence does come from, is really pulling it back, breaking down those layers. And unfortunately, peeling back those layers can come with really peeling back the ego, the inner bitch that talks to you and tells you you're not good enough. You know, you really need to start peeling those back. Sit with all that, you know, maybe grief, maybe sadness, maybe hurt, maybe low self-esteem, but sit with it and then understand that you absolutely can rebuild yourself into whatever person you want to be, because you can do that as long as you believe in that, you know, that true confidence can come from within.
Definitely. And that syncs so well, because on the second one, the actually series 2, when you're speaking about self-love, we actually mentioned right at the beginning before we went live, a lot of people get self-love mixed up with self-care. And that's where you're kind of talking about there, isn't it?
Yeah. So self-love and self-care has been a huge, broad, wide topic over the last few years. Now, my kind of opinion on this stuff, self-care and self-love is not just bubble baths and face masks. It really isn't. It's about, you know, sitting true to yourself. Like, what is in your life right now? Are you happy with it? Look at your circle, look at your friendships, look at your relationships, look at what you're doing, look at every element of your life. Then sit with it and ask yourself, am I fulfilled? Is this filling me with love and light? Is this filling me up? Am I waking up every day bursting with gratitude? If not, then really that element of self-care comes into cutting ties and toxic relationships, letting people go and releasing things that no longer serve you. Once you start to do those things, or breaking away from relationships, breaking down bad habits that probably don't serve you to the best, once you start to do those things, it will inevitably start to elevate you. Now that's self-care, because you're lifting yourself up, you're filling your cup up first in order to then give to everybody else at a decent level. So really, you know, you could do all of the face masks and bubble baths in the world to come home, but is that really going to help you move forward in your path where you want to be in life? No. So it really is doing the groundwork, looking at your surroundings and asking yourself, are they serving you? Are they not? Are they filling me up? Are they not? And then doing the work there.
That is really interesting. And I do find someone who is, say, a helper, pleaser, like to make sure everyone else is okay, we can heavily run the risk of becoming this shadow self, thinking pleasing everyone, we're going to feel fulfilled. And like you said there, you got to take care of yourself first. And I describe, like, when I've done my first aid course, one of the first things they tell you to do before you go in the room is to check your surroundings for danger. Because if you go in and something falls in your head and, you know, you obviously go on unconscious, you're not going to be any help to anyone else. That, for me, give me that sort of reality to go, okay, for me to help others, I have to be at my best self. And that really helped me become a good helper rather than a pleaser who's trying to run around helping everyone else and me being left behind.
Absolutely.
And feeling like my values and beliefs are being compromised from trying to please others all the time. That was something I had to
100%.
learn, and that's something I still have to probably work on, but I've got a hell of a lot better.
Yeah. And I always say, you know, boundaries, healthy boundaries with everything, work, relationships, friendships, family, everything. If you're setting those boundaries and you're honoring them, then that can only serve you. But I always say, you know, look at the advice that you give to other people. Look at the advice you give to your loved ones, your friends, your family. You will probably tell them in a roundabout way to be setting boundaries, to be really protecting their energy with people around them, to not overgive, and to, you know, in that sense, look at what you're telling them people. Are you doing to yourself? Because if you're not, you will start to feel like an absolute boss. Like you will start to live in that mask. And then that's when your confidence is suppressed, because you are not truly living by your values and your morals that you tell everybody else to. You're not respecting yourself and honoring that. So that can have a backlash on your how you show up, your true self. Your true self is getting more squashed and squashed as you start to portray this mask and think that you're leading the path, you're wonderful. Don't get me wrong, you probably are. But in the same breath, if you're not kind of following your own advice that you're dishing out for the masses, then very soon people will start to see through that, as well as it will portray in your work, the work rate that you give, the vibe that you're giving off. It will naturally be dampened massively. And then that obviously comes back to that will squash all the confidence and the true self that is within you, because you're constantly masking it up with that ego.
That again, we have seen that in the industry over the years, haven't we? Where I do feel, obviously on the social media, there's influencers which are very good at portraying a certain way. But I like to think that in the fitness industry, obviously as a sidetrack, there's a lot more people living there what they obviously are serving, which I think is a great attribute, what I'm seeing with the industry at the moment. I don't know what you feel about that.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. Like, I think especially in if you're an online, online fitness coach, whatever, fitness influencer, whatever, your platform is online and people are there for you. And they're there to thrive off your good vibes, your good energy, your motivation on a daily basis. But I think if you start to live falsely through that, and actually, if you're not feeling it, if you're not feeling yourself, then the worst thing you can do is continue trying to be that person that they initially followed you for. Your audience want to see reality. They want to see realness. So, you going through, we can't all have good times, right? Because with growth comes levels of pain. I always say to my girls, or any sort of people that outreach to me, the biggest thing I tell them is, with growth, as humans, as you're growing, you had growing pains when you were a child, right? And with flowers in their seasons, they have to be watered on in order to grow. They have to have those shit windy days where they lose all their bulbs and then they rebirth again, they grow. Well, as humans, we are exactly the same as that. As we move through life, it cannot just be a plain sailing life, because it doesn't work like that. We have to go through ups and downs. We have to go through the hard times. We have to go through the growing pains in order to grow. So I think if the more you can show that, the more the audience and in general, people can connect to realness. And that's what people want to see. And I think naturally now we're starting to see more of that over the social media. And I know that I try and impart that message as much as possible. Like, I went through a whirlwind in the last 3 months. Like, I was 4 weeks into my competition prep, the biggest show I would have been doing in the end of May. I had my head down, I was solely focused. And then within a matter of 3 weeks, my whole world turned upside down and I had to have unexpected surgery. And I didn't really have time to process what was happening. But also, like, when it all happened, I wasn't that bubbly person training every day, sharing good vibes, because I hit a rock bottom at a point in my professional career, but also personal life. So for me then to just jump on social media and be happy and be positive in a way, that was almost like me, again, my ego coming through. I'm masking, I'm not sharing realness. So in order to kind of push through that myself, what did help me was really share with my audience, like, what can I learn from this? So I always say to everyone, yes, I wasn't happy. Yes, I wasn't buzzing. Yes, I had the rug ripped from underneath my carpet, but also there is a reason why that happened. And life is always happening for you. It's never happened. That is my motto in life. Everything happening for you is actually happening to you. So my angle at this was, okay, so what can I really learn from this? And what can I take in order to then help people further in my job role, and just in general, just help me? And there was a lot, there was a lot. So I think even though it came with pain, sadness, anger, depression, frustration, I also took a handful of positivity, light, love, and learnings to then lift me up, but also help lift other people up. Because you have no idea, like, yes, your audience want to see that motivational part. They want to see the uplifted every day, the good vibes, but also your audience may have been at that rock bottom point too. So the more I can resonate with those feelings and I'll learn from them and mold them and bend them in order to get back to a better place, then that takes them on their journey too. So yeah, I think realness is the most important thing.
I think so as well. And reflecting back on my own experience with that when you work on yourself, you develop yourself, and that self-care, what I find is when I am hitting, if you like, that rock bottom phase, I'm quicker these days of still having them grieves, because you've got to have them, you've got to have them pains, but I feel I'm much better at switching my mind to look at how I can move forward. I'm not going to say all of a sudden be positive, but start flipping at how I can use this bad experience to move me forward in life. And then in time, because we are only human, you start reflecting more of the positives of that rock bottom experience, if you like. And I feel that if I look at myself from age 42 this year to when I was 32, there's been a massive development. But if I look back further, what I was like at 22, it'd be an even bigger difference. So I feel that's where self-development, self-care, that's where you're going to progress forward from that. And I think that's the real good benefit of always observing your actions and your surroundings. I mean, what we covered there, in fact, was about looking at your self-care, how you can develop that, how you can make that better. Looking at your circles, is it actually really serving you at the moment? Do you need to have a completely different circle to move forward? And reflecting on your relationships. Have you got good relationships? Have you set your boundaries right with these relationships? Do they understand you? All that comes into it. And I think the last thing what we can tackle, which we're probably both experienced recently, is that feeling of having that fear, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, fear is a massive thing. So I say to everyone, people are, this happened to me recently, right? So I had this massive fear, like people be like, why? I had this huge fear of speaking up on my social media, believe it or not. Like I can talk, I can, happily talk on podcasts, but I had this fear of just talking up on my stories. And I was like, do you know what? I need to move past this fear, because I can help the masses of people if I just share a few tips on my story or talk about something that has risen up with a client just on my story. By doing that alone, I can help, many people. I may not know about it, but that was enough for me to be the driving motivator for that. And that's where you've really got to then question these fears and go, do you know what is going to be the worst thing that happens? Like categorically, what is the worst thing that could happen with any fear that you might have? It's probably not going to be as bad as you think. If you really break it down and look at the reality of it, it can't end badly, really. Like, it'd have to be something horrific. But really, we are, I always say fears are a physical manifestation of your comfort zone. So if you are holding yourself back with these fears, you are naturally holding yourself back as a person, and then pulling that back to, you are holding back your true self. You're holding back that confidence. So really, confidence comes from stepping inside your comfort zone, taking those leaps, being bold with the leaps too. And that is what's going to help lift you up and help you shine as your truer self. And in my my experience, I did this. I stepped onto my stories. I was like totally real with you guys. Like, this has been a fear for me, and I'm now overcoming it. I'm going to be chatting. And that first day, I think I had about 6 or 7 people message me, and I really helped them with whatever I was talking about. I just did a Q&A, but whatever I was sharing on that helped people. So then that was like, that driving motivator behind it really helped me jump. So even though you have these fears, you have to learn how to get out of your own way, which, as we know, that the ego can massively get in the way. You can talk yourself out of things before you've even tried them. But the first thing I would ask is, what's the worst that could happen? And the second thing is, what's your motivating factor behind that? It has to be more than, oh, it'll just make me feel better. There's got to be a driving factor behind that fear, but in order for you to take the leap and have that courage to, be bold with the forward movement. And that's where it comes back to, getting outside your comfort zone. Nobody likes it, but actually what's more uncomfortable? Staying put. And I said to you beforehand, like, the biggest risk of anything is staying exactly where you are. If you have those fears, that is actually the biggest risk. Having that fear is the biggest risk of all, because you're risking all this happiness, and you're risking, that could be a lifetime of happiness. In some cases, if you're scared to take that next step at work, go for that job promotion, if you're scared to stop your whole life and rebuild it again, you are actually, the biggest fear and the biggest risk is you staying there, because you're risking the whole
backwards. Because you're going backwards and forwards in life. You can't just be in one place. That's what's even worse, isn't it?
Yeah. But I said, like, this couldn't be like, do you know what? That makes sense. But it also can feel very overwhelming. The minute you start to think about how many things that you probably aren't happy with, but then you're like, oh my God, where do I start? There's just so many things that I want to change and picnic apart. The best advice I can give to anyone is pull yourself back into the present moment, because when you're in the present moment, absolutely nothing is happening. Like, you are not creating any stress, anxiety, hurt, sadness, anger. All those emotions are created in the past, or past events, or the future, the reality future that hasn't even happened yet. So I always say, if you're feeling very overwhelmed, pull yourself back into the present moment. Now people go, but how do you stay present? Like, being present, it's actually quite a hard skill if you think about it. Little tips for people out there, if you're struggling to find yourself being present and that narrative chatter is taking over, have a look at your surroundings, check in with your senses, your taste, your smell, your touch, your sight. Look around you, count how many trees you see outside, describe in your brain how beautiful that tree is. Get yourself in nature, listen to the birds, especially now. Spring is beautiful, nature's thriving at the minute, and it's very, very healing for people too. So checking in with your senses is one of the most ways you can connect yourself back to the present moment. And the more you do that, the more responsive you are instead of reactive. So if you can get yourself in a nice grounded state in the present moment, you can start to make appropriate decisions, as opposed to decisions in fog and mist of all these emotions that are either created in your reality that hasn't happened yet, or dampened by past events that cause you sadness, hurt, stress, whatever it might be. So there's a lot to take away there.
There is. I mean, even when we talk about fear, you could really think of something which you fear, and you can tap into so many emotions of so many reasons, because there'd be a multitude of things. There'd be the feeling of upsetting others. There's a feeling of you not moving forward. There's the feeling of, your ego self. There's a feeling of being someone what you don't want to be. There's so many things what comes into when you use that term fear. So that's probably something we can get a group of people in a room and talk about, and they'll gain so much from it. But I feel like we've covered so much today. Have you got any final message, what you'd like to just leave before, obviously, you head off for your really busy day, what you might have?
So confidence is always within you. It is literally your true self and your soul trying to shine through. So the best advice I could give to anyone is peel back your layers, get uncomfortable with yourself, really do some, what I like to call shadow work, break your layers down, pull back your ego and really sit with yourself and think, right, who am I? Because that is then when you can start to rebuild your true self and let your confidence shine through. And it's not easy, but like I said, with growing comes growing pains, and life is a roller coaster that's ready to be ridden in the best way possible, you know, in that fun, that exciting way. So, you know, really try and move through those things and work with them as opposed to working against them. So that's fighting against fears and stuff like that. Take the leap, be bold with the leap. And now is a perfect time. Spring has just sprung and it's an expressive time in the seasons. You know, nature's thriving at the minute. You are here to thrive. Now is the perfect time to be using the yang energy of the season as well to be doing that. So yeah, confidence is always within. Just try and find it in between all these little layers of shadow. That's all it is.
Sounds good. And I'm going to leave with one more thing. Easy isn't always best. So just remember that before you finish off. But you know what? It's been great to have you. And obviously, I'm really excited to catch up with you in a couple of weeks at Miami Pro. But I'll let you go. Yay! And yeah, thanks for being on. I'll catch up with you soon.
No, thank you so much. It's been great. Thank you.
See you later. Bye.